All right, just about live. Everybody comfortable?
I like the new setup we have here.
Really cool, really cool.
Yeah, fewer crotch shots with the table, so I think that keeps us out of trouble.
All right, should we get started?
Let's do it. You guys ready? Here we go.
Risk. The final frontier. These are the stories of the Axon enterprise. Our mission to protect life, to seek amazing people, and live epic tales. Come, let us boldly go.
All right, let's get started.
Welcome to the Boldly Go podcast, where we explore the intersection of public safety leadership, artificial intelligence, and the exponential future. Obviously, taking inspiration from Star Trek and the spirit of exploration, which I completely screwed up during episode 1, as many viewers and listeners have pointed out. Here we dive into the transformative changes shaping public safety, technology, and society. So today on Boldly Go, episode 2, we are joined by an amazing person, one of the most forward-thinking trainers in global law enforcement, and a real-life Viking, Espen Larvog. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Okay. It's the National Coordinator for TASER implementation and training in the Norwegian Police, with over 16 years of policing, most of it in specialized tactical units. Espen has served as a breacher, tactical field commander, and lead instructor in use of force, combatives, and tactical training. He's also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, former MMA fighter, and holds a master's degree in leadership with a thesis on VR integration and tactical decision-making. Rick, you've said he's one of the most forward-thinking trainers that you've ever met. So we're excited to have a conversation with you today on episode 2, our very first guest on the Boldly Go podcast. Welcome, Espen.
Thank you, sir. And it's an honor and a privilege to be here. And looking at that start, next time you should have a Viking ship flowing through space instead. That would be the next part for the Viking element.
You should never give Rick ideas. It will be changed for episode 3.
Oh, you know what we should do? We should do like Game of Thrones, where every episode they change something minor in the intro.
That would be cool.
So Espen, Rick has introduced you, or told many people about you, and we'll get into how you guys met, saying you're a Viking friend. Are you a Viking?
Oh, yeah. So I'm from the true part of Norway. I'm from the west coast. And I actually did one of these heritage DNA tests to just really to see if do I have anything exotic with me, and I didn't. I was 100% from the same place, 100% Norwegian, coming from the west coast there. I don't think there was really much mixing because there really hasn't happened anything there before now with the globalization element. So, but my wife, she also did it, and she had other elements in her as well, especially a little bit of the British. Yep. So joking about that, but probably my ancestors
we've all
came
seen
down
the
and got
Netflix.
her.
We've all seen the Viking shows on Netflix, so we know what that means. You don't have to spell it out for us.
Right.
All right. Before we get started, and I asked Rick how you two met, I think we do have a disclaimer that you have.
Yeah. I just need to inform that I'm here in the role of myself. And I'm not representing like the Norwegian police or the state or anything. It's all the opinions and thoughts that I'm coming with is my own. Yeah.
So you're here as Espen the human.
Yes, sir.
Maybe Espen the Viking.
Yeah.
But not Espen the official representative of any agency.
Exactly. Okay. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about things we're doing, but it's going to be from my perspective and things and thoughts that I have.
And depending on what Rick says, because we never know what Rick is going to say. He might be just here as Rick the human as well. I don't know. And we'll have to put a disclaimer at the end of this podcast. So, Rick, you went to Norway. You came back all excited.
Yeah.
So tell me what you saw, how you met this guy.
So I heard about Espen from some of our team in Europe, and they were saying there's this guy up in Norway who was involved, I guess, in a project looking at whether they were going to arm the police or not, and with firearms. And that he had come to this conclusion that the taser was actually a better close-quarter weapon than a firearm. And look, like I'm the biggest taser advocate in the world, but I thought, oh man, you can't say that. And so I went out and we met, and at the beginning of our first course, you said something to that effect. There were what, like 93 trainers there from across the Scandinavian countries, and he's down. And let me have you say it directly. So, how did you phrase that about the taser being a better option?
Yeah, so I think I want to give a little bit of a backstory there.
Sure.
So like being in a role and doing the things that I do, like your reputation is pretty important, right? You need to have that. It's something that is easy to break or to lose, and so it is important to have. And like when I started off in this role, and I did like the master instructors that I did in Sweden a couple of years ago. I came in with a mindset of like, it's an awesome supplement, but the firearm is what I'm going to go through in life or death situations, right? And even throughout the whole experience, the whole master instructor course, I still held with that thought. And driving home from it, I wasn't like necessarily convinced about it taking over for the taser. But then I put it through the combatives training we're probably going to talk a little bit about in a little while.
Yep.
And putting it through the ringers, through hard, rigorous training, through my sphere of tactical elements that I focus on, I saw that, shit, I'm actually performing better using taser over a firearm, especially in these combative situations. There's many arguments to be made for it being better in this situation. So I saw, okay, I'm performing generally better from a practical element. What if I put it into, because I'm also pursuing associate professorship, so I'm also really into the theoretical framework. They need to intertwine. So I saw also like it made a lot of sense from the theoretical framework. I was like, there's nobody else doing this. There's nobody else training or saying these things, and we need to get it out there. And candidly, even now, I'm a little bit afraid to say it because it might be, as you said, it's a little bit controversial to say these things. So, but I've decided that I'm going to go past that. I'm going to get that information out, and it's just an assertion. I with something as important as this, we can't really tell anybody this. We can't even show it to them. They need to experience it for themselves. And that is like the baseline also for the training we want to do, because if we can get people to actually establish trust in the taser through honest, realistic training inside this combative sphere where people are actually trying to kill you, you're going to trust it everywhere, and that's going to up to you going for the taser more often than you would beforehand. And I think this, together with all the awesome developments we're doing in regards to the taser, and also on the training side, it's going to be the single most impactful thing we can do to save lives. So that's the baseline for why I started saying these things. And we've had huge traction now. Like just Axon Week's just been here now. And if there's anybody that's going to be difficult to change, it's Americans. Like, you guys love your guns and more than anybody else. But the response through this honest, realistic training we're talking about has been huge. We've had several agencies coming up and like, we need this training. We want this training. This is the missing piece in regards to how we think and operate around the taser.
Sure.
All right, so I actually want to jump to the punchline. At the end of a 2-day course, there were like 90 European trainers. And when we asked them at the end, how many of them actually felt they agreed with you that the taser was a better option than a firearm for close quarter fighting, how many of them then agreed with you?
100%.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just crazy. I couldn't believe it. All right, so for our viewers online, suspend disbelief for a moment. I also want to say this is also predicated on we at Axon have one more really important improvement we need to make in order for this to work. And that is, we have a probe called the Apollo cartridge that is designed to penetrate through heavy clothing. And I think before we'd say it could meet that expectation, we need to get that probe out in the field. And we're going to be testing it with you in the Nordics, where people wear very heavy clothing and it's cold. And so we're going to test this over the next year. And then we'll come back and see if this proves out to be true. But maybe as a next step, let's hit the pause button, Mike, and let's go back to the beginning and get a little more background on who this guy is.
All right.
So this is Espen.
Now, Espen, we said you're, Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, MMA fighter. Is this a good day or a bad day?
Well, I don't think the injuries will tell if it's a good or a bad day. That's just necessary evil or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the outcome, if it would be learning outcome or if it would be performing, is going to be the significant part. And I actually remember this picture. So this was after, probably a little bit extreme, but this was after an MMA tournament in Frankfurt. So we actually did several MMA fights in a day. So I won my first one on or a ground and pound really, and I won my second one with a rear naked choke submission, and I got knocked the hell out in the final. So that's probably that ringer you see there. So you can't win them all.
But here, we have a better picture.
Yeah. This is another fight, and generally, if you mount somebody like this. It's over. They're fucked, right?
Do you call that the Viking mount when you're on top and you're coming out?
I call it the general mount, but like this is the Viking spirit at its best, right? So go hard, fuck them up.
Yeah, and looks like a happy guy. That's at the end of the fight, I'm guessing?
Yeah, that's at the end of the fight. And also, like, if you expose yourself to, like, there are some learning outcomes to take from that. So, like, if you expose yourself to hard, rigorous training. I'm not saying that police officers should go out and go into the ring. That's going to be a precursor. But if you put yourself through hard, rigorous training, you're going to be way more calm and collected when things actually happen. You'll have more cognitive extra elements. Cognitive load will be lower, so you have more ability to process what's specific in the situation you're at. So there's a lot of synergy effects to actually work in this way.
And so this is one of the images from your police training where you're bringing MMA style training into public safety.
Right. Yeah.
And who's that guy with you? Tell us a little bit about who's that.
Yeah, that's Martin. He's a good friend of mine, and the pictures here don't really do him justice. He's one of the most sexy guys in the world. We have to say that. Like when we came to Arizona here, we went out in town with Pat, which is an awesome dude in Axon. I love that guy. He took us out, and we went out of the cab in Scottsdale there. And when we came out, a guy saw Martin, and he started shouting, getting all his friends to come in, and there was like, hey, look at this guy! It's the most beautiful man I've ever seen.
God.
And that's really been
Did you set that up?
No,
that sounds like a great prank.
I didn't. I did not set that up, and it's like that's what I have to live with. So whenever I introduce him, I always take a little break afterwards so people can finish up drooling over him before we continue to train.
So you guys are like the supermodel and the Viking. Is that your
fortunately, like God doesn't give with both hands. So while he is very hot, he isn't that intelligent, to be honest.
Yeah. I sense that.
Yeah.
I can sense that.
So like I'm like the brains. He's gonna be the beauty. But we were really well together.
It's a good combination.
Yeah, and that's actually became like a gimmick throughout the whole of Axon Week. So we've done selfies and been like celebrities in regards to the things that we did on stage and other elements on these things, and that just lightens up something that is pretty serious, which is like life or death fighting. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, between Rick and I, who's the beautiful one? Who would be the Martin and who would be the Espen?
I'm sorry. Rick is going to be the beautiful one. You're probably both smart guys, but then he has a tech empire and he's a billionaire. So
and he has a volcano lair in his basement.
And like you've walked around in the bicep with your with like short sleeves throughout this week, and you have pretty amazing biceps to be as old as you are.
Thank you. I'm a cosmetic trainer. He trains to fight. You know, I train to be more like your sparring partner.
Now you mentioned Pat. That is Pat Madden. He's the head of the TASER program here at Axon. He's a handsome guy as well. So you were out with some heavyweights when it comes to looks.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna like name drop a lot of guys when it comes to like looks here, but him and also your like head of training Andy Wren. He's also a very sexy guy, and with his southern slur there, he would do very well in Norway.
There's a common thread. People who have hair are perceived as being more beautiful, I think is...
They are. Because me and you are going to look the same tomorrow morning or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
We will always look the same, but then we'll make up for it with other things.
Somehow we went down the beauty rabbit hole. Let's bring it back to training, where I think this is going to have the biggest impact.
Espen, let me ask you a question. I mean, I've heard over the years from police leaders here in the U.S. and elsewhere, but you're a global, recognized global trainer, that perhaps police training has moved away from hands-on, hand-to-hand combat, laying hands on a suspect, wrestling, getting them down to the ground. What are your views on that? And obviously that ties back into your electrical combatives.
But I don't know if they've moved away from it. So what we've actually done is increased it significantly. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is like, we call it the beginning with the end. So you should be proficient with your hands-on skills. So you need to be able to defend yourself, to defend your tools, to take somebody down. Ultimately, that's what we're going to do. Through that, you're going to get a realistic understanding of when you're going to be at like a point of no return where you need to go forward and fight, because we add on movement patterns, communication drills, pre-incident indicators, what you need to look for in our combatives elements. And if you know these things, you also know how and when you can create distance, or what you should do to create distance. Mm-hmm. You auto-regulate that to be able to keep that distance if you have the possibility, like where you position yourselves in regards to door frames, using barricades, both static or dynamic, like shields and those type of things, or creating diversions. All this starts with you having good hands-on skills first and foremost. And what I think is a trend for many is to start in the other end. So they start with like movement patterns, how you should approach a subject, all these things first and foremost. But you can be the best in the world in these things, but I'm sorry, if you don't know how to handle yourself while you're in there, if the other guy is just marginally bit better, he's gonna fuck you up, right? So you need those skills first and foremost. And that's like, and then again, a lot of defensive tactics instructors, or the guys in my same role, they will say you need those hands-on skills first and foremost. You can't rely on tools. They have to be secondary. And while I do agree with a lot of that, you do need those hands-on skills. Experts like myself also tend to be so invested in this. We want to do so much with like the time we have at our disposal, and it ends often up being like overkill. Because police officers, the guys that seek training on their own, which everybody candidly should, they're not the ones that we need to be concerned about. It's the guys that don't do it, that don't want to train, that don't feel they have the time, they're not motivated, they don't get enough training from their agencies, and maybe their physical capacity isn't where it should be either. So they might be fat, they might be small. There's several things to take into consideration. So if there is some way we can get them to perform significantly better over the board, we should do that. And that's where the TASER comes in, mm-hmm. right? So we can't actually show the elements and arguments by standing here, but there are many arguments to be made for using a TASER in close quarter situations with the precursor of the new T10 with penetration probes, so we can trust it enough knowing that it's going to penetrate clothing. That's going to be a precursor. But if we can perform significantly better, adding that on, why shouldn't we do it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me start. I want to share a moment here. So this was when I saw your training for the first time over in Norway. And what was interesting to me was how almost all your training, you had guys grappling and fighting over weapons, which, to be honest, it really clicked for me. This was a sort of training you typically don't see. It's more theoretical. We're shooting at static targets. I don't know if you sound's a little louder. Let me see if I can pull the sound down. But for me, there was an interesting moment here, right in this one, where I had this realization, like, wait a minute. If you used a gun in that situation, it would be, like, that would be an execution. That would not be that officer would probably go to jail. And there was this moment, as you and I were talking about it, that, you know, once you pull your gun out, you can't use it if you're in control of the situation and the other person's not lethally armed. But if you start to lose control of the gun, now you're justified to use it. But now you really can't use it very effectively because by definition you're struggling over it. And if you gain control, so you have this narrow window where it's legally allowable to use the firearm. And the fact if you even pull it out and introduce it into a physical struggle, you've now turned what might be sort of a more normal fight into a lethal force situation.
Oh, yeah.
Help us think through that dilemma.
Yeah, so I actually call it the dangerous dilemma. So I have a terminology for it. So let's say you've done the wrong things. That might be like tactically you moving into a situation you shouldn't be in, you being too close. Or it might be, as we're seeing here, or in other situations like they're grabbing your weapons and other things. Would you, like in these settings, would you be able to shoot him? Yeah, you might. You might, right? It might be justified to do it. And the question would be, did you need to get there, right? But then, so like having low competence skills might still be that the use of force would be justified, but was it needed? Did you need to end up in that situation? So like if you had more good hands-on skills, maybe you could have resolved it by creating an angle or something in a wrestling fight, or in him grabbing your gun, for example, stripping off the grips and coming away. But then again, and here's like the dilemma then, so if he has gripped your gun, you just a little while ago were justified to shoot him, but now through good hands-on skills you actually resolved that matter. You've created distance, you created a window of opportunity for you to do some things. Can you now shoot him? That depends probably on where we are in the world and different legislations. Somebody might and others won't. But what I can guarantee you is you're going to have to think about this. You have to use time to cognitively process this. And adding on that, the majority of individuals aren't programmed to hurt anybody. You generally don't want to kill somebody within your own species. And also having like latent in your mind that, shit, I might get persecuted here if I do these things. All this makes it into a very complex situation where you need to, when you honestly don't have the time for it, start to think about these things which might ruin your window of opportunity again. And if we know that the taser with the right type of approach, they're going to penetrate clothing here, it's going to have effect on the target. You don't need to think about killing him. You don't need to think about the dilemma if this is justified or not. All these things put together is going to make you way quicker. There's something called Hicks-Hyman law, which is like an algorithm that still holds water, even though it's really, really old. So it's an algorithm that says like the more decisions you have, the time used to come to the decision you need to do will increase logarithmically. In situations where you might not have the time for it. So like I like to use the analogy of like everybody has a reference probably to like a smart TV control as one button, like Apple TV or something. While your own your old remote control has a shitload of buttons. They do more or less the same thing, right? But if you take up everybody that's listening here, I can guarantee you can probably remember what your old remote as a kid or something looked like, or the one you have at home. You know where all the buttons you use are. But every fucking time you take it up, you need to look at it and like, it's there, right? You do the same with apps on your phone, right? You know where the app is. You can tell me where the apps you use are. You still need to think, there it is. If you have just one button, it goes way quicker and does the same thing. Does it do it as quickly, or can I do everything with it? No, maybe you can't. Maybe you can only do like 70% of what you want to do. But within policing, that's more than good enough. That's more than good enough. So if you adhere by principles, I'm huge on principles in regards to training, you're going to figure it out. So like having that cognitive ease, not just on those things, but like also having few techniques, keeping it simple, doing more with less, which the TASER gives you, that's just huge.
So there's actually an American trainer and use of force expert named Steve Imes. We'll probably have him on as a guest here. And he's been involved in many of the more high-profile and controversial police force incidents in America. And he was sharing with me that one thing he trains is he tells cops, do not take your gun out of the holster until you know you're in a situation where you may need to use it. And some examples he used where, a cop pulls their gun out in somebody who's unarmed, and now they're fighting over the gun, and you could argue that the officer pulling the gun out has now actually turned that into a potential lethal situation. And so that some of that is almost from a legal perspective about making sure you don't escalate. But when I saw you actually getting people in close, you were talking about a number of limitations that I had never really heard or thought about, particularly of a firearm. If you're in close with somebody and you pull the firearm out, you want to talk about what some of those limitations are?
Yeah, I do. I actually think we can talk about it, and people can visualize a little bit. So probably the majority of people that's listening to this podcast has some type of reference to how a firearm works, right? So, all right. So we're working with a firearm, and first and foremost, there's going to be many issues, even in regards to retention and where you put it. So I like putting the holster of the taser at a 45-degree angle forward of my hips. And the reason for that is that probably we can't show in the same way, but this, me being relaxed here, isn't very. It's
not threatening.
It's not threatening, right? So, but I'm still quickly up, being able to use it, right? The equivalent of that with a gun is pretty threatening, right? Might escalate the situation. And also, I can get by using fewer techniques. The retention here, they're going to grab and give me the arm in the same way. Not so here, right? Here I also need a 90-degree draw. I like 45. Like if I'm fat, or if I put on a lot of body armor or other elements and I have it upwards, it starts getting a little bit difficult to do the movements. Having it 45, I don't need to think about that. And the most important thing is, and some things that we get across with our training is, with the taser and the way we're doing it, we can mount a larger degree of offense or a larger degree of defense on the ground by utilizing the taser. So sometimes I want to get it up even in difficult situations, which I would never do with a gun. Get back to that in a little while. So like having it at a 45-degree angle, I can't show that here now, but I can turn or twist my hips to get it out, start working with it. And that's especially huge on the ground, where I have the ground, I can't maybe take my arm in angles to get it out. Have somebody pressuring into you, laying over you, might be difficult as well. I can again move my hips, which is like always the starting point when it comes to like the jiu-jitsu elements of it. So like, what then with adding on a firearm here? There's, again, keeping things simple is exactly what we need in these settings and scenarios.
Okay, so I just did a little time warp. I hit pause so I could go grab some props for you, Espen.
Yeah.
All right, so...
Okay, so I'll take the gun first here. So where we talked a little bit about like why we should position our holsters in the right way.
Yep.
So then let's think that we're in a combative situation now, and we have a lot of data in regards to how close the firearm is actually when people shoot, and it is pretty close. It is within a sphere where people can grab weapons more often than not, actually. So this is actually something to really put on the agenda. And like, so having a firearm here, there's many things many considerations I need to take. So now I'm pointing all over
hold
the
on
place
just
here.
1 second. I'm going to adjust some. All right, so I took a moment to adjust the camera. Let's see if this worked, Espen. There, I think we can see you better. All right, now go on and tell us.
Yeah, right. So taking up the firearm here from the holster, or just walking in and around with it, and I'll point everywhere here because you gave me a VR gun. So there's just plastic here. I have to take many things into consideration. So first and foremost, I can't really have a direct angle as I would have in ordinary shootings, where it's so dynamic in here, guys. So like if we're fighting 2-4 and over a gun, we're going to move 360 degrees all around the place.
Yep. Hold on 1 sec. I'm going to move your mic. All right, so we just did a time warp. I ran up to grab some props. So would you like a firearm?
I'll start with the gun here. So we talked a little bit about the holsters and where we should put them in regards to being able to present the weapons. And then coming up here, we're going to focus on the gun first. So you see this is a prop gun. This is a VR gun, so there's nothing dangerous with it, just to show. And if I take this gun up here, there's many things I need to think of. And being in here in this sphere, it's pretty normal. Like more often than not, actually, people or police officers fire their guns in situations where they are grabbable. We are this close. And I can't really have that direct angle shot here without it being super risky. So if we're in this sphere here of combatives elements, it's going to be super dynamic. We're not going to be linear. We're going to go around in circles fighting to, for, and over this. It's going to be grabbed. We're trying to create angles. All types of shit happen. And whenever I'm an instructor, I actually get shot a lot by people just showing how often the bullets fly here. So if I were to shoot like this, I would be in risk of, like, you could just think of me going 360 around here. I'd shoot you, Mike. I'd be able to shoot you.
And by the way, you're saying you get shot with training rounds, like the...
Oh yeah.
We don't rounds.
We don't execute anybody. No, we use paint bullets. Yeah. So back to it. So I need to have like a downward facing angle, working on diminishing shots, so I don't shoot myself or others. And we've had examples of that even in Norway. Also, I can't really have it floating around here, because if somebody grips this weapon, it's gonna malfunction if I pull the trigger. Then it's gonna malfunction. Doesn't need much of you manipulating the slide for this not happening, working. If you have a lot of clothing on, loose clothing, things gonna flap here. It's gonna malfunction. Having it into your body, it's gonna malfunction. So, and then you need to break the grips, tap rack to be ready to go again. And all these things are obviously, you need a lot of skills in here. There's a lot of things that might go wrong. What if we're fighting over it and somebody like Rick were to grab it here, and like there's a fulcrum, you see it's longer here than it's here. You can pressure that down, and like I might, just as well as retaining it, lose it. Especially if my physical capacity isn't there and the guy grabbing it is strong something. This is a very viable thing happening. What am I going to do then? We know that presenting the taser takes a longer time, and him putting this on me, I might be fucked, right? So there's so many things happening here. Add on the things we talked about with like the cognitive strain, not wanting to shoot somebody, legislations. There's many things we need to think about, like if we're going to do this in a viable way. And also, obviously, we would end up killing somebody here, right? So not so with the taser. So if I were to get a taser from you, so having the taser here, I don't need to think about the angles. I just need to point on him, right? Because if I end up shooting my partner, a third person, or even myself, who cares? And if I shoot myself twice, I'm a fucking idiot, right? I just
which is what it would take to get the effect.
You would tase yourself.
Right. So that like, okay, then
you're in trouble.
Yeah, right. You're in trouble. So what if he grabs this? Well, again, as long as and we have techniques for this to leverage in the right way. As long as I can get the laser back on the target, I'm good to go. It can't malfunction in the same way. We've had some issues with the magazine falling off when we're fighting here. You saw that a lot, Rick.
Yep.
And like that's just how cool Axon is. So now you're going to add on a latch or something that makes it stick. So we solve that problem. So we will.
Yeah, it's great. I think we actually learned a lot about future weapon design in that one afternoon, watching you guys physically fighting over the device. That was new for me.
Yeah, and that creates that trust we want, right? Talk about that afterwards, but like, so I don't need to think about it. What if I were to lose this? You can probably time losing it. So like, if you're fighting all the way until you can't time it, that would be an issue. But probably you're like, oh, you're going to figure out before you lose, I'm going to lose this now. I'm going to lose this. Sure. Time it in the direct way, then create some type of issue for him to resolve by shoving it away, turning it off, whatever. So you quickly can come up on your gun then if you need to, if you've lost this. Like, and I'm imagining a future where like, if you were to take this from me, Rick, and come against me, maybe like in the future it wouldn't work even. Like, so there's also something to think about, because this one hasn't developed in forever.
It's not a smart gun.
This one develops the whole time. As you said, we had a lot of feedback to make it even better, to other features as well. Moving forward is going to make it even more awesome. So like adding on this training as well, knowing that you need time to develop the right type of culture makes a lot of sense. And this is just standing. I'm not going to go down on the ground here, but on the ground makes even more sense in regards to the same things. And we train all these things. We train also specific shooting positions for how to be structurally strong in here, as we want to present it, why we wouldn't want to present that. We also train like how to establish structurally strong elements if it were to be out and somebody grabbing it to lift it up into position. So we added on to best practice combatives elements, and it just makes a lot of sense.
So look, I'm the TASER guy, right? I am not a police instructor, and so I wouldn't pretend to tell anyone which weapon they should draw in which situation. The thing that was just very thought-provoking for me was this idea that I know in many agencies, and particularly here in the United States, partially because it can be such a dangerous world out there for officers and they face so many guns out in the public, there is a lot of focus on you get your gun out first because it's the thing that will, be your ultimate protection. The thing that was just interesting for me was if you're in close quarters with somebody else, I had not realized all the complexity and challenges that comes with that.
And then again, can we comfortably say that the firearm is more effective than the TASER? We don't have the right numbers for the TASER yet, because I predicted the effectiveness will go up drastically with the penetration probes with the Apollo. But we do have numbers for the gun, and like FBI numbers is easy to break down when we see that in the torso you need more than 2 shots to succeed. And if one of the shots are in the extremities, you need even more. So like, and then have you had a stoppage effect? Everybody uses 9mm. Everybody that's shot or been in situations with that know that you're not going to resolve the situation with 1 shot. You're going to need more. So like, is it really more effective? It's interesting to at least think about that a little bit, like, and add on then again, all legislations lets you go for the TASER earlier. Wherever you are in the world, obviously you're gonna be able to use less lethal before you shoot somebody. So like, adding on that again, you might be able to be more proactive. So you can identify the potential in a situation. We do this all the time. Like, you shouldn't act on exactly how the situation is now, because then you're always going to be on the backside. You need to see, okay, what's the potential in this situation? What might it develop into? And act accordingly. And you can't like, there's something called being too proactive. You can't like think, all right, this guy might have a knife here. I don't know if he has it. I'm going to shoot him. But while you might think the same thing, okay, this guy might have a knife. He's doing a 45-degree angle on his arm, probably picking something up. That might be enough in some legislations if they've talked and done the same things for you to use a TASER, for example. So like, you can be more proactive, way quicker. You can take the initiative. And all data shows that the accumulated amount of force then reduces itself, because all the dangerous situations, very few of them haven't had some type of development within them. They're started at one point, and because you're mirroring the use of force instead of establishing dominance elements early, you end up with it like going really high, while you could have resolved it by just going here early, like a bigger bang theory, more or less.
We started out by talking about Espen as a MMA fighter, etc.
Yep.
But you're quoting a lot of research here. Now, do you have your PhD, or is that something you're currently working on?
No, so what we have is like, there's 2 ways here. So you can do it through like the thesis elements, but you can also do it through like training, researching in combination, and development elements. So that's what I'm doing. So actually the combatives elements, the electric things we're doing here is my way to that, to the associate professorship. So I'm working on it now, and we've done. It's important that this just doesn't come across as something that I think is the right thing. We obviously needs to be. We stress test it, and as you see, we've had quite the good feedback. But we also need it to be empirically sound. We need to be able to back this up with numbers, in regards to like the subjective elements of what people think of this training. How does it perform when people go through this type of training in regards to use of force, to resolving it with less lethal elements, and in regards to like the observational elements? What do like subject matter experts think when they see people working with the techniques and elements we do in regards to traditional TASER training, or in regards to focusing more on the firearm? And I've done that. Like candidly, what's cool about the research that I've done is in 2024, the only thing we did was introduce the TASER. We didn't do anything extraordinary without training. We didn't do anything in regards to the amount of hours, but we added on the TASER. We had a good trial period. We trained everybody throughout 2023, and 2024 was our first year of like full implementation. And we can deduct some pretty valuable things through this. So the guys that train the right type of training, i.e. what we want them to do, they're 2.3 times more likely to use the TASER than the guys that have traditional training. And that's for me, that's the huge number. Because that's the one that trickles into things that sound more sexy, like a reduction in police-involved shootings by 40%, which is pretty close to the moonshot, right?
And just to be clear, that's a result.
Yeah.
You saw that last year, lower 40%.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And also, which is also pretty interesting to think about for all the law enforcement elements, people out there, is like when the firearm is used, the TASER is also in several situations used, and end up in 1/3 of them being the method that resolves the situation. So like that's pretty groundbreaking things. Our numbers are like, we don't have as many shootings obviously as in the States, but working through several years, the data accumulates, and we're seeing the same data already throughout this year. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be in the same ballpark, which is enormous, and also just advocates for having enough training and the right type of training. And we did it also from like a qualitative element. As you said, you should always be skeptical when you get the 100% number, because there's always going to be some type of deviant on numbers. But it wasn't. All of them really just loved the training, and it was a little bit fewer than the 90 individuals there, but all of them loved the training. They ended up reporting a 87% confidence increase in their own combative skills, and 100% would choose the TASER. And while we did research on, and there was 93 individuals that had traditional training, those guys were also put through tests and observational elements. We put them through like 8 high stress situations. Then there was like a, don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but there were like 6 or 7% that actually reported having confidence in their own skill sets in here, and like in the low 90s in regards to people going for a firearm. So like there's a huge difference there in confidence level and in what they did and went for on both sides, which is again super valuable.
Yeah, I want to come back to the confidence levels and culture, because you talked about that before. But Rick, we might want to just take a minute and explain TASER 10 for those listening or watching who didn't see the first episode. That you could not do this until the evolution of the TASER 10.
No.
Like everything that Espen's talking about cannot be done with the prior TASER versions.
And also, just to add on there before you go, Rick, like I'm not confident saying this either without knowing that the Apollo penetrates the clothing, because just having one or two, like just having a few situations where like it should have worked, it didn't work, that's going to be like the jungle telegraph, and it would walk onto like, and then it's difficult to establish a trust. And I want to talk a little bit about trust afterwards.
Yeah. So first thing I would say is, we are not saying that the TASER is a better choice than a firearm in close quarter quite yet. It's a hypothesis we're testing. There is sort of 2 main elements from a tech perspective. The first is the TASER 10, and this is not a real weapon. This is a VR weapon, but it is a 10-shot, 45-foot range capability. And that means, again, you've got a lot of excess attempts to get a good shot on somebody, and 45 feet is plenty of range. Its biggest remaining limitation is clothing penetration. So in laboratory conditions, today we actually do have a faster time to incapacitation than a bullet. This is going to be a little bit gruesome, but for a bullet to incapacitate, you have to hit somebody basically in the brain or the upper spinal cord. Otherwise, it takes tens of seconds to tens of minutes for them to bleed out. So even though you've caused gruesome injury, it may not stop them immediately. In laboratory conditions with the TASER, if we get a good connection, it's an immediate incapacitation as long as those two probes are, the two connection points are 12 inches apart. The big remaining improvement is this Apollo cartridge that we've been talking about. And the Apollo cartridge really is designed to go through heavy clothing. In fact, you met with our R&D team this week, and they were showing off how it went through our test setup. And Espen went in and said, well, in Norway, guys, they wear heavier clothing. He folded the jacket in half again, and that actually didn't get through it. So it's a good thing you came out early, because our team is working with you. And by the way, they've already told me they've found a fix where we've...
I heard about that.
Increased the velocity a bit and a little bit of the geometry of the tungsten core. So this is iterative. We are on the bleeding edge here of public safety with this. But the goal is to prove over the next year we can dial this all in.
So the current TASER, TASER 10, which we believe will help us get to our moonshot, you can do it at close range. You can do it at point blank range. In prior versions, you could not do that. You had to have enough distance to get the spread. And we had a drive stun in there, which we no longer have the drive stun. So this makes it great for close quarter combat as our defensive tactics, whatever, as Espen would talk about.
Yeah, you could use the drive stun for like, you might miss with the one probe and get one in, and you can use the drive stun, you can get NMI. But like with that in there and with fewer shots on all these elements, it's just too much stuff. Mm-hmm. So like, it's with the T10 we've come to this awesome moment that we're in now, and with those probes being there, and I felt a little bit bad coming in there because I was like very direct with them. So like, guys, sorry if you're listening to this, but like they needed to hear it because they're like legends for me. It's like Nobel Prize winning shit they're doing in there, because that might be the thing we need to like save lives moving forwards. But like they were testing it on clothing. I was like, would be summer clothing in Norway. So like they're gonna order in the right jackets and other elements. But I also heard that they increased the velocity and did some other elements, and they had pretty positive results at the end of the week here now of Axon week. So hands out to those guys. They are. I don't think everybody there thinks of what they're actually doing. I think they really nerd into like, I want this to go faster, I want this to go through, and you might lose sight of that these engineering guys here that know nothing about policing, or some of them do, but like just generalizing, they're potentially saving thousands of lives through what they're doing, which is like really, really cool. So like, I hats off to those guys.
Yeah. And what you talked about getting back to trust, and you set it up on stage at Axon Week that you have a mission. How do we build true trust in the user, so they feel confident as you've been describing this training? But talk about trust and culture, because as you said, like how do we shift the culture? Because no matter how advanced the TASER becomes, if we don't change the culture around the firearm being the primary weapon, we're not going to, we won't achieve that transformation we're aiming for.
Right. And that is why I think combatives is so valuable, because it's so honest. You're in the nitty and gritty, and like, you don't want to resolve the situation there, but you might have ended up there, or the situation might have escalated because police officers need to go hands-on where they're taking somebody down. So like, if there is somewhere to establish trust, it's going to be in there. Because if you trust the TASER when somebody, for example, has a knife or something, and they're close by you here, like, you're not gonna get into a situation where the potential of you getting killed is any higher. And if you trust it here, you're gonna trust it anywhere, right? And also, combatives is universal. So like, we keep the things we do super simple. It's easy to learn. There's like very few movements that we do as much as we can with. Like, do more with less is like really a mantra. Like, so it's super simple to learn. It's based on best practice elements from like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, MMA, all these things just tailored for a policing setting. So in 2025, like wherever I go, whichever, like here in the States, there are these civilian systems that tend to dominate, like effective fitness, combatives, crazy survival tactics, code 4 concepts, all these here. Probably a lot of the listeners have heard about. They all do the same shit. They just present it in different manners. And we add on tasers here and see that it makes a lot of sense. If I go to like the Czech Republic, or if I go to Mississippi, it's going to be the same things that are being utilized here. So like it is like fighting is a universal language. That's what we say in like jiu-jitsu. It's universal. We speak it wherever, in the same way wherever we are. And that isn't the same with the tactical elements. So like tactics vary a lot. And by tactics, I mean like movement patterns and coordinational elements and how you read a room, how you do these things, right? So they don't necessarily transfer into being universal. So you can't focus on getting that trust across through that, because agencies do it differently, countries do it differently. Even just how people value lives make them have different tactics, right? What other equipment do they have? So that's why I also like focusing on the combatives elements. But then again, enter VR, where we can let the user for themselves resolve situations in the way that his or her agency would do, gives us also the opportunity to add on the tactical element.
Let's talk about that for a second. So I think the big change, we have 3 big changes coming over the next year. One is the new Apollo cartridge that should really improve the technical reliability. The second is your combatives training, which I think needs to happen in person, because you're in there, you're fighting. Yeah. And then there's VR. And I actually gave our team extra budget and flew a team over to meet with you to say, hey, whatever Espen wants to meet in VR, this guy knows what he's doing. Tell us a little bit about what you're working with our team to build in VR.
Oh yeah, so there's this Polish company, Immersion. Then they are great guys. So shout out to Peter and Bart. I love you guys.
Oh hey, that's my team. Yes, they're independent too, though. Yeah. Those are the guys we sent. I love Immersion too. But keep going.
Yeah, and all the guys doing VR for you is also awesome, by the way. So, but like that, we worked with them and giving them some insights, and we're like, again, back to the tactical element. Then, so it's very nice with all these standoff situations and downrange training to get familiar with the weapon and do all these things. That has a lot of value. But what you're going to come back to time and time again is going to be some type of mode where you can be creative, where like a lot of tactics doesn't need to happen with tasers or firearms or anything. It's just going to be coordination between guys, just going to be movement patterns, just going to be how you work standing on the door, how you enter a room, all these types of things. So what we need then is a configurable environment where you can add on different elements here. You can, like, with our own unit, like me and Martin were in, like, we could spend a half a year just entering the same room, and we would just change small things. We'd just add on a barricade here, add on an open door, add on 2 open doors, add on you needing to use distractions, adding on being silent. We could just do a lot of things to like enhance these elements. And we can do this in VR now, and people can use this for their own tactical training elements, which is huge, because then we have both the combatives, we have the tactical elements, and you can do the downrange shooting part. So all the major disciplines within police tactics is really covered. And what they've already done is like, probably they'll be a little bit sweaty now. We're talking about it here now. They actually need to get it to work really, but like,
that's probably why Rick brought it up.
Yeah. So we can have like NPCs come in there that do different things, but we can also have like, if we 3 were to go in there and we tested this and it's awesome. Like, me and Rick can be police officers. You can be the bad guy. And we'll put you there together with several NPCs as well. We'll move, we'll resolve situations. Doesn't necessarily always need to be realistic as long as it's relevant. So like, okay, he's out, let's go move on further. We take another one. change the environment. Now there's an open door there. You need to enter it again. It's going to be a little bit different. We'll see how we did it different. Suddenly you come there. We have a realistic guy on the other side that might do different shit. So you will give us more of like the realism film. We can do so many cool things in there. So we did that. We filmed combatives, so you could see us in 180, going around and see like, okay, he's doing like this, he's over there. So they have a reference point. So at least we could do that. And also we have this mixed reality overlay. I haven't seen it yet, with like movement patterns and what you should do, and when are you at the point of no return? When will it be a combative situation? When will it be a situation you could resolve from a distance? And how can you add on these things? So I'm super psyched about that part. And
by the way, I should say for all our viewers at home, this is in the lab, so these are not VR scenarios that'll be available this year, but 2026 and beyond, like we're doing a lot of co-development work.
But I mean, it's a good point on VR though. But all of this is coming together at the right time. Like we couldn't do this in VR last year.
No.
I mean, with sort of the exponential leap when it comes to VR and artificial intelligence, this stuff we're hitting it at the right time. I guess that's a question to you, Rick. I mean, you're the...
Yeah, it's all coming together. The TASER's hitting its stride. The combatives training is a big new addition. And then the VR with AI interactive conversations and things, those will be coming out later this year. And then, over the next couple of years, all sorts of configurability and really cool and really useful stuff.
There's probably a lot of people watching or listening saying, oh, I've seen these old VR systems. They're not very good. They're clunky. No, the new stuff is crazy.
Yeah. And to be honest, like some of the things you have, again, I'm not selling anything, right? So I'm just honest. So like I love the TASER because it makes you perform better. It's going to save a lot of lives, and it's the best technical element. That's just what I believe and know, right? So I don't sell anything. In regards to the VR part as well, it isn't the end all be all of training. I don't think it's there that it can take over for traditional training. For me, it's a learning tool. So I'm going to use it when I have a specific learning outcome I want to reach. And if that is the best thing, I'm going to grasp for it. And like in, for example, Norway as well, there's a lot of time to travel for training. Can I do a lot of training where I'm at? And when we meet, I'll have even more high quality training because we've saved resources for that. Or can I link up with my own team or with somebody that's an expert somewhere else? Or can I use it like going in VR, doing a scenario, doing a movement patterns, and when it comes to the threat part and I want it to be combatives, that's when it's going to be freeze, off with the VR, go hard, you resolve the situation, back into VR, and you created that VR to look exactly, which you can do now as you would do in a traditional tactical development. You can implement it in so many cool ways, and that's how you should go about it. And if it doesn't give you anything, I wouldn't say then I would say don't use it. But genuinely, this will have a huge value for people, and this ecosystem of these things together is going to be huge. And like the things that are there already, that's like after you've done a few of the scenarios, you've done them, right? So like there's coming new things there as well. But this sandbox mode is like infinite. So it's like Minecraft, right? Mm-hmm. It's just tactical Minecraft with tasers, really.
And what do you say, Espen, to any, like, hey, Norway is Norway. You mentioned in the beginning the gun culture we have here in the U.S., that this all sounds great, but how will we ever implement this and get the change that we're looking for here in the U.S., given the gun culture here versus, say, in European countries or elsewhere?
Well, coming here, I thought that, like, we would need to change Europe first, mm-hmm. And probably the rest of the world, but and it would take time here. But I've changed my opinion. So because throughout this week I've been approached by so many agencies that just come up and say, "Hey, can you do this for us, XYZ?" Or like, "We want to revamp our training in regards to the outlines of what you're doing." Mm-hmm. So like, it really seems like it's something that's they really want, really, and I think that's really cool. And I talked with Rick about it when we were up grabbing some coffee. Like, I can't remember exactly which department he was from, but it was one of your larger cities, and he came up and he had tears, and he got emotional in regards to seeing how applying these things would be able to save a lot of lives. And everybody's that at Axon Week obviously is going to have some type of positive relationship with tasers. So I don't think this is like the diagnostic assessment of us saying this is going to be easy to do here. Because I don't think it's going to be easy to do here, to be honest. It's going to take time, more time than other places. But just seeing that, establishing a foothold, getting it out here. And again, that's just my training principle is like, I rarely say what to do. Like I'm not saying them to do what we're saying here, telling them here. I rarely do that. And the reason for it is like, me telling people what to do or showing them what to do, that's going to be them listening to a guy that they think knows their shit that he's doing and them replicating it. And that isn't how good learning is done. Especially something as controversial, maybe as we're talking about here, that needs to be something you experience for yourselves. And it's like, if you come to the same conclusion as we do, then I am confident that a lot of people will do. Obviously, 100% of the guys that we had when you were there did that. Then, well, if you then would revert back to using your gun as the primary in combative elements, that's Darwin's definition of you being an idiot, right? So,
And look, I'm completely optimistic because, I mean, Rick and I and the rest of the Axon team, we talk to thousands of officers per year. Here in the U.S., around the country, but here in the U.S., no officer signs up to this job to take a life.
Oh, no.
Like, it's up to us to provide better tools, better training, better technology to do the things that you're talking about, and so that we ultimately we prepared them and we've given them the tools where they could do their job properly.
So one of my favorite moments, Espen, was when we started talking about the moonshot. And you were talking about how, Norway's kind of leading the way. And in that moment, we made a decision. We were going to pivot and test the Apollo dart in the Nordic countries with you and with the folks up there. And so, using my little generative AI, I made our new Viking moonshot scene there. That we're gonna prove this whole system out with the new Apollo cartridges, with the new combative training, and even with some new VR, over the next year or so. And then we're going to get the moonshot moving here in the U.S. So, you told me there was some tie in Norse mythology between the moon and. Do you remember that?
Yeah. So I just remember it loosely, but like the reason why the moon is going through its phases and like going over the night sky, it's because it's hunted by a wolf. And at the end of at Ragnarok, when the world ends, the wolf catches the moon, and there's another wolf following the sun and eats it, swallows it. And so we don't want to get there, but like the analogy up until that is pretty cool, because like having that wolf like relentlessly chasing the moon and being a little bit unapologetic about it, because doing this type of training, there will be some skeptics to begin with. Like, aren't there going to be more injuries? Which there aren't. We've actually had a decrease. Aren't there going to be other elements of like, what if this doesn't work? He should have gone for his firearm. He went for his taser and he got killed or some blah, blah, blah. There's going to be some questions that people arise, right? But just accepting that it is going to start with being a little bit controversial, and then we're going to move on to it being the norm, the standard. That's going to be that wolf that needs to like, okay, he doesn't give a fuck if these things happen. He's going to chase that moon till he can fucking eat it, right? He's not going to come up there for a soft landing. He's going to swallow the whole thing whole. So that's the Viking moonshot goal. We're going to go hard to make that happen.
So we're going to be bringing Espen back next year for Axon Week in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to report back on the progress of this year. Between now and then, Espen and I both might have, and Mike, all three of us, I think, have some special tattoos related to tasers and other things. And maybe we'll design one together. It involves the Nordic wolf and the moon.
All in.
And
maybe your next AI-generated Viking can pay homage to folks like Espen and I who don't have hair and golden locks like that. That's discriminating against cool folks like us, right, Espen?
Yeah.
That's not a
You can
real
have no
Viking.
way.
You're a real Viking.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rick, I don't think we could have had a better guest on for our first guest on the Boldly Go podcast, and better way to end episode 2 than that little Norse mythology.
All right, my man, to the moon.
To the moon.
We'll see you in a year.
Thank you, Espen. Thank you, Rick.
All right, everybody, boldly go. We'll see the rest of you in another week on episode 3.